Hey Queens, welcome to the Sista Circle podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing candid conversations, information, and resources regarding women's health, mental health, motherhood, and wellness. And I am your homegirl and host, Faith Alaribe. So go ahead and get comfortable, Queen. Let's dig in. Hey Queens, listen, I can't even believe I'm about to say this, but this is the final episode of season 1 of the Sista Circle podcast. Yo, I'm so grateful. I'm so excited and just optimistic about the future for so many reasons. I finally did something that I wanted to do for a very long time. I saw it all the way through, and at the end of it, I can honestly say that I want to do more of it. And so that means that you all will be receiving a season 2 of the podcast. My reach was pretty cool for a first season. This is the 13th episode, and we have more than 1,000 downloads across platforms, which is really cool considering the fact that we've done very minimal marketing. And this is, on purpose for many reasons. I think that season 1 was just really about getting my content out there, right? Not being focused on perfection, but really just putting the word out there because the content is there, right? And, the more I do this, the better I become at it. And so I really just am grateful for even the thoughtfulness behind season 1 of the podcast and for being able to reach at least 1,000 downloads. I don't know if you guys know this, but a random tidbit is that the podcast actually dropped the same day that I gave birth to baby Zara. So I wanted to make sure that I had all of the content and stuff like that pretty much pre-recorded prior to the launch because I knew that postpartum period, listen, it is real, y'all. I also will say that I'm really proud of myself because as I was building out the podcast, I was going through probably one of the hardest times in my life. I was dealing with a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, and just burnout from the last 2 years of my life. But I pushed through, and this was really a positive outlet for me. And so I'm just grateful that I had this area of creativity to just really pour into during that time. And then I will say that I'm just truly, truly grateful for the people who took the time to sow into me, to sow into the podcast, right? From the experts, from Dr. Soyini Hawkins. I want to give you a special shout out in particular as she's someone who I didn't know her at all. And she's a top surgeon, right? She has her own practice, a busy woman. And she took more than 2 hours out of her time to sow into the podcast and put out really, really incredible information to our community. And for that, I'm truly grateful. She saw the vision and sewed into it. So I'm grateful to her, but also to all of the folks in which took the time to share their story or to share their expertise on the Sista Circle podcast. So I wanted to kind of highlight a couple of episodes in particular. And, it's not really ranked, but just kind of, they get special provisions, if you will. So an episode that I am most proud of is definitely the one with Dr. Soyini Hawkins, which is episode 2. And that is the episode in which we talk about all things fibroids, endometriosis, and fertility, as well as the different types of treatment options that are available for us as women. I really felt prepared for it. It was a topic that I'm super passionate about, and it really just made me feel like I did a good job as a host, getting the information that I know that my audience would need. Also, she's got to be like the world's coolest surgeon in the world. It literally felt like I was talking to my homegirl. I'll have to say that my most favorite personal interview was with my girlfriend, Tiffany. So she shared her personal infertility story with me in episode 3. I think the title is After the Storm, There's Always a Rainbow. Tiffany is actually one of the main inspirations for the podcast, if I'm being honest. She was a community partner of mine, and I had just come back from having my open myomectomy surgery, and we were colleagues in the sense of we spoke probably twice a month. We had regular meetings. And so when I come back, she, I could tell that she wanted to ask, like, where have you been? And it was at that moment in which I decided to share my story with her. And while I shared my story with her and she didn't access that information right then, probably less than a year later, she accessed it. I helped to guide her through the process in which I had gone through from surgery and then healing from that surgery, both physically, emotionally, spiritually, etc. She kind of followed that blueprint, right? And was really, really successful. And she actually had her baby boy, I think in July of last year. And so seeing her outcome as a result of me sharing my story with her, it was all that I needed. It was like, aha, now I see why I have to create this platform, because more women, we've got to share our stories. There's just so much knowledge, wisdom, and real beauty in our stories as women. And I want to be able to share more of those. The episode that I almost didn't publish is the one with Dr. Danielle Simmons, which is episode 6, where we talk about intergenerational trauma. And it's not because of her lack of gen dropping, because Dr. Danielle Simmons, listen, she is dropping gems like no tomorrow. But it was really because I felt like I personally was just too raw and vulnerable. I mean, I was crying. I was super nasally. I was like, I think I was 9 months pregnant at that point. But it really, it influenced the direction of the podcast or that episode. But luckily, the next day, after the episode dropped, I received text messages and phone calls from friends like, yo, this was the proof that I needed to put that episode out there in the world. And I'm just grateful to the incredible psychologist that is Dr. Simmons to help facilitate that process. She was great. I will say that the most gem-filled episode is with my old roommate and my dear friend, Marisela Guzman, episode 8. Like me, Madi loves simplifying concepts for folks and also loves bomb resources. So not only was she simplifying a whole lot of concepts as it relates to mental health, but she also was sharing a lot of resources with the Sister Circle community. Listen, I'm still getting text messages and DMs from folks talking about they're taking a mindfulness walk. So make sure you go ahead and check that episode out as well. The episode that you may be sleeping on, but you really need to wake up and give it a listen, is episode 5 with my own personal function medicine doctor, Dr. Sandra Alexandria. So to know me is to know that I love all things functional medicine and alternative health. Listen, I think that magnesium and elderberry syrup probably cure a whole lot of dis-ease in your body. Amongst a whole lot of other things. But listen, enough about magnesium and elderberry syrup. Dr. Sandra Alexandria is dropping gems regarding preparing your body for fertility, Mercier therapy, and general nutrition tidbits overall. It is one that you don't want to miss, so make sure that you go back if you haven't and give that a listen. So an episode that is the epitome of why I'm doing this work is episode 11 with my girlfriend, Natasha. So that feeling that she talks about in struggling to find someone, anyone with a story that was like hers, particularly as it relates to a health-related issue, right? And searching and not being able to find it, or someone who looks like you, that is my why. My why is that when the next time a woman is searching for language, for information, for education, for inspiration, and resources about the topics that we share on the Sister Circle podcast, that they find us and that we're here to welcome them in the Sister Circle community. I want to make sure that no one or no woman feels alone in their experience, and that they have the language and the education so that they can be really empowered to take control over their lives, right? But listen, those are just a couple of highlighted episodes, right? But I have a full slew. I think there's over 12 episodes that are filled with wonderful information. And so my hope is that while we're on this hiatus, that you go back, you take some time, and that you listen to all of the episodes. They're great. So as for where we're headed as a podcast, so I'm taking about a 1 or 2 month hiatus. I want to make sure that I'm doing some real thoughtful planning. I want to conduct some interviews, right? And just build upon season 1. And listen, we're coming out for the second season swinging, right? I'm so excited about the topics that we'll be exploring. It's not even funny. It's about to blow up, y'all. I'm mad excited. So I will say that I do plan to drop some Grow with Faith mini episodes during the hiatus. Most will be like long form versions of some of the social media posts that we've done. And while long form in the sense of it's longer than a social media post, those episodes will be significantly shorter than more of our long form episodes on the pod. So be sure to be on the lookout for those, as well as the next date for our Sista Circle. So now that things are opening back up, I really need to think through what that will look like moving forward. I want to continue to conduct them virtually, but I also do want to one day host Sista Circles all over the world. So remember I said this, y'all. I say. So season 1 of the Sista Circle podcast is a wrap, y'all. But before I wrap up, I need feedback. Right? I need feedback. Tell me how did you like the podcast? What episode was your favorite and why? What do you want to hear more about next season? And last but not least, please, y'all, leave me a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. It is how people find us. So stop what you're doing right now. I'll wait. All right. So I need you to go to podcasts, click review, click 5 stars, drop a dope comment, and submit. That's it. I really hope you took out your phone and did it. And if not, you still have time to do so. But before I end, I got to give special shout outs to the following folks. For without them, this podcast production would not be possible. I got to start off with my girl, Tamika. You have been my friend, my big sis, and my dream coach from the very beginning. Thank you for reminding me about the things most important as my foundation to my wellness. Thank you for keeping me on track, for helping me to bring this dream to life, and for being my accountability partner throughout this entire process. You are a godsend, truly. Phil, aka the podcast doctor. You became kinfolk since the first time we chatted and have been incredible to work with. Thank you for making the podcast sound great, for coaching me along the way, and for always being patient with me. I appreciate you. Keisha, you came in at the last inning to help with social media and have been a huge help. Thank you for always seeing something in me that I sometimes fail to see in myself. I appreciate your prayers as well as your humor. You are hilarious, to say the least. To the hubs, babe, I thank you for pushing me to make the podcast happen, to provide me the space to do so, the encouragement, the cheerleading, right, all along the way, and for being my sounding board when I'm having random ideas and need to brainstorm. I love you and I appreciate you more than you know. Well, y'all, with that, I'm out of here like last year. Peace, queens. Thank you so much for listening. It is truly my hope that you both enjoyed and gained something from it. And if so, be sure to share this episode with another queen that could benefit. Also, if you are willing and able, please leave me a 5-star review wherever you consume your podcast. That is how we spread the good word, y'all. And in the meantime, be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at the Sista Circle Podcast. And be sure to check out the website, thesistacirclepodcast.com. There you can subscribe to our mailing list to ensure you get reminders about when new episodes drop and receive our monthly newsletter that's filled with great resources. You can check out our show notes, resources, and blog. And you can send me a message if you want to be on the show, have an idea for the show, would like to collaborate, or sponsor the show. With love, Faith.